They say before the end begins, the sky will bleed. Sounds dramatic, right? Like something out of a sci-fi movie or some post-apocalyptic thriller. But here's the thing, it's not fiction. It's a warning. A thread running through ancient writings, whispered prophecies, even modern science. And it all points to one year, 2025. Now hang on, don't click away just yet, because if you felt it too, that strange energy in the air, that eerie shift in nature, the feeling that something's just off, you're not alone, and what you're about to hear might make those goosebumps make sense. Let's start with this. Imagine a night so still, yet so loud, the earth shakes, not just rumbles, but roars. A celestial force, hidden for centuries, begins drawing near. Unseen, cloaked in shadow, it pulls on the planet like a cosmic magnet. They say the stars flicker as if in fear. Cities crumble, oceans boil. The air? It doesn't just move, it screams. A force not made by man but awakened from the ancient core of the earth itself. Now this could sound like a wild fever dream, unless you realize these aren't just spooky stories. They're warnings. From ancient prophets, from haunted visions, from astronomers who somehow knew what was coming. And now, it's here. Before we dive deeper, pause for a moment. If you're watching this and it resonates, don't keep it to yourself. Like, share, subscribe. The platforms might bury messages like this, but the truth? The truth finds a way. So, why do we even take ancient prophecies seriously? Because they've been terrifyingly accurate. Let's talk recent events. In just 1 month, May 2025, there were over 134 earthquakes across the Pacific and Asia. That's not small talk. We're talking magnitude 5 and above, enough to rattle cities. And with them came floods that swallowed streets whole, wildfires that sparked out of nowhere. And in the US, you probably didn't hear this on the news, but 10 storms, each named after dinosaurs, tore through multiple states in 1 week. That's not weather, it's chaos. In Myanmar, a 7.7 magnitude quake, the strongest in living memory, brought entire districts to their knees. In South Korea, fires appeared like ghosts. They didn't spread, they ignited, almost like the earth is lashing out. And that's the thing. These aren't just natural disasters. They're predicted ones. Over and over again. From Nostradamus's cryptic quatrains to the chilling visions of Baba Vanga, from Japan's Seir Tatsuki's prophetic dreams to India's young mystic Abhigya Anand, different cultures, different timelines, but all pointing to the same moment, 2025. Now pause on that. 2025, not just a number, not just another year. This is the year the earth begins to rebel. Take, for instance, a lesser-known prophet, Nguyen Binh Khiem, a Vietnamese sage from the 16th century. He warned of a time when rice would no longer be divided into bowls, fire would rain from the skies, and June's dew would become the last of its kind. Now, in poetic terms, that might sound vague until you look at Vietnam's current reality. Record-breaking floods, heat waves melting the pavement by day only to give way to floods by night, a surreal, almost schizophrenic contradiction, and it's happening now. Khiem also wrote about something called the Year of Wood Consumed by Fire. And what do we see? Droughts scorching Europe, solar flares disrupting our planet, crops failing across Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, rivers disappearing, economies trembling under the weight of climate collapse. Africa? The central belt is baking. Madagascar's land is cracking. The Sahara is expanding. Meanwhile, China is split in half. Deserts in the north, flooding in the south. And Vietnam, a country that's both burning and drowning in the same week. You can't make this up. And behind it all, solar activity. Scientists are tracking it. Solar storms, solar radiation, silent, invisible, but felt everywhere. Fatigue, headaches, mood swings. These aren't random. They're biological reactions to something deeper, something solar. Let me ask you something. Have you felt it? A strange pressure in your chest? A shift in the wind that feels unnatural? Sudden blackouts or tech glitches you can't explain? Drop it in the comments because more people are noticing and talking about it. Now let's circle back to that name, Abhigya Anand. You might remember him. In 2019, this Young Indian astrologer went viral after predicting a global health crisis months before it changed the world. At the time, many dismissed him as lucky, but his predictions kept coming true. And now, he says 2025 isn't just a bad year, it's a cosmic turning point. According to Anand, this year we're being hit with extreme solar radiation, something that could fry electronics, knock out satellites, and collapse global communications not for minutes, but for weeks. And this isn't just theory. Space agencies are bracing for it. We're in solar cycle 25, and Anand believes it's reaching its peak. But he goes even further. Anand warns this storm won't just be technological, it'll be economic. Like a hairline fracture beneath a dam, one wrong pressure point, and snap. The collapse begins. Mass migrations, currency resets, and one unnamed superpower, likely built on tech and military strength, will fall. Now that's terrifying. But what's even stranger, an entirely different prophet from a different continent said almost the same thing 300 years ago. Let's talk about Jiku, a Japanese mystic from the 1700s, famous for his waterfall meditations and fasting rituals. He wrote a scroll titled Cry of the Dragon's Tail, where he warned that the sun would spit fire, the moon would hide, and mankind's towers of light would flicker and fall. At the time, people thought it was poetic nonsense, but today, sounds like he predicted a grid failure, maybe even a cyber attack. His scroll described a great shaking in the west, followed by eastern winds rising, a metaphor, perhaps, for the fall of Western powers and the rise of Eastern ones. And guess what? In the first half of 2025, while Western countries battle inflation, protests, and drought, nations like India and Vietnam are quietly surging, building gold reserves, strengthening supply chains, like they knew something was coming. Coincidence? Or were they listening?
But the East isn't the only place where strange things are unfolding. Let's look somewhere far less talked about: Russia. Out in the cold spiritual corners of Russia, murmurs have begun. Monasteries tucked away in the wilderness are dusting off old scrolls, and one name keeps reappearing: Rasputin. Yes, that Rasputin, the so-called mad monk of the Romanovs, known for his eerie visions and influence over the Russian royal family. Turns out, Rasputin left behind a prophecy too. In it, he warned of a black eclipse during a time when the bear, Russia's ancient symbol, would turn its gaze not west, but south. Now, fast forward to March 2025. Satellite images show an unusually high concentration of Russian naval activity in southern seas, areas they usually ignore. Why? What are they preparing for? A strategic move, sure, but maybe also the echo of an old vision waking up. See, everywhere you look in 2025, things are in motion. Things are on fire. Economies, ecosystems, power structures, they're all wobbling on the edge. And yet most people keep saying, it's just a rough year, things will calm down. But those ancient seers, they'd tell you, the seals have been broken. And here's where things start getting even weirder. In April, amateur astronomers in Argentina spotted something terrifying, a black streak, like a gash in the atmosphere. Not a meteor, not a plane, just a tear in the sky. A few days later, electromagnetic sensors in Chile picked up an intense magnetic spike, so strong it knocked out weather radar systems temporarily. Scientists couldn't explain it, but prophecy readers, they could. They pointed to Nostradamus's most chilling quatrain. It spoke of a black torch falling in spring, followed by a summer without breath. And then there's this line. From fire in the heavens, rivers reversed, the proud city shall tremble beneath scorched clouds. In the year the moon hides thrice, the old empire will fracture. Wait, thrice? In 2025, we're expected to witness 3 lunar eclipses. Rare, unsettling, and if you believe in symbolism, significant. And that proud city, could it be New York, London, major financial hubs, vulnerable to cyber attacks or market crashes? The signs seem to be stacking. But then comes the twist. The prophecies aren't just about fire and destruction. They're also about awakening. Enter the Zohar, an ancient Jewish mystical text foundational to Kabbalah. In it, there's a passage that describes a hidden land that will rise when the world forgets itself. For years, scholars thought it was a metaphor. But what if it wasn't? Let's talk Antarctica. Yep, the frozen, forgotten South. Suddenly, in 2025, everyone's paying attention to it. Military flights from multiple countries spotted over restricted zones. New satellite scans revealing symmetrical structures. Buried, hidden, under miles of ice. Not mountains, not glaciers, but shapes that don't belong. And under the ice, a magnetic field shift, not weather-related, not tectonic, something else. Something that seems like it's activating. Now, official sources, they'll say nothing to see here. But then there are the whistleblowers, people who claim something has awakened beneath the ice, a presence, an artifact, something that could shake the very foundations of how we understand history and our origin. Could this be what Nostradamus meant by the continent where the blind eye will open? Is Antarctica not a wasteland, but a waiting land? One buried by time, now rising again? And more importantly, why now? Why is all of this converging in 2025? Because this year isn't just about climate or technology or politics. It's about consciousness. It's about the human spirit, about who we are and who we've become. You see, the Earth isn't just throwing tantrums, it's sending messages. The Hopi, a Native American tribe known for their spiritual prophecies, warned about this. They spoke of a day of purification, a moment when the Earth would cleanse itself of imbalance. And with that purification comes a sign. They called it the blue star Kachina, a celestial body with a blue tail visible in the sky, a warning of global transformation. In early 2025, that sign arrived. Comet C/2024/G3 Atlas, a bright blue comet visible even during the day. NASA tracked it, news outlets briefly mentioned it, And then what? It vanished from headlines. Just like that. Was it the blue star the Hopi warned about? And if so, what does that mean for the rest of us? Because the Hopi also said the earth would shake 3 times before the final cleansing began. Already this year, we've had 3 major quakes, a 7.6 under the Caribbean, a 7.7 in Myanmar, and a 7.5 near the Drake Passage. That's not just tectonic activity, that's a pattern. And yet, among all the noise, all the fire, all the shaking, the most chilling prophecy doesn't involve catastrophe, it involves forgetting. There's a scroll attributed to a medieval scribe known only as the Veiled One. In it he writes, "The end will not come with screams or fire, but with silence. When the world forgets what it means to be human, the great correction will begin." Let that sink in. We've forgotten how to listen to the earth, to each other. Everything is screens, alerts, notifications, synthetic pleasures, artificial stimulation, disconnection disguised as convenience. And now the rise of AI, machines starting to feel more real than people, conversations with bots that feel more authentic than dinner with friends. But if we stop listening to the human soul, what happens to the soul itself? Gopi Krishna, a 20th century spiritual teacher, warned about this. He said a false awakening would seduce millions, convincing people they had transcended the natural world, when in reality, they'd abandoned it. He called it a technological rapture, a trap, a seductive lie where people believed they were ascending when really they were being unplugged from life itself. And guess what year he said it would begin? This isn't just about prophecy anymore. This is about you, your awareness, your choices, whether you follow the path of convenience or the path of connection. Because the most powerful prophecy isn't about solar flares or floods, it's this. They will no longer need to be enslaved by chains. The people will chain themselves with light. That's from a Sufi poem written in the 1300s, no name attached, just those haunting words. And today, what do we call our phones, our tablets, our screens? Devices of light.
So here we are, 2025. And the world feels like it's holding its breath, but not in peace, in tension, like something's about to snap. But according to the prophets, what's coming isn't just physical collapse, it's spiritual separation. Not in the form of fire from the sky or monsters from the deep. No, the final prophecy is about choice, about awareness, about vibration. In the ancient scrolls of Hildegard of Bingen, a 12th century mystic revered across Europe for her visions, she wrote of a time when a second sky would open, a rift above the earth, unseen by the eye, but felt in the soul. Through this rift, she said, souls would be sorted, not by judgment, but by resonance. Those of the silent light shall rise, she wrote, while the dim and heavy fall asleep with the earth. Sounds like fantasy? Then why are millions of people across the globe reporting the same dream? 2 earths, one gray, heavy, and suffocating, filled with noise, smoke, and machinery. The other, vibrant, lush, wild, free. And at every version of the dream, there's a choice, not spoken, not forced, but felt, unknowing. as if your soul chooses, without words, where it belongs. This isn't just poetic symbolism. The Dogon people of Mali told the same story. So did the Hopi elders. So did the Vedic texts of ancient India. A divide in human destiny, not by race, not by wealth, not by borders, but by consciousness. And maybe that's why you're still watching. Because maybe, deep down, you felt it too, that tug towards something higher. Or maybe you felt the opposite, the heaviness, the numbness, like you're being pulled down into distraction and exhaustion and noise. And that's not by accident. That's the divide. Even Nostradamus hinted at this in one of his lesser-known writings, not in his published quatrains, but in fragments discovered after his death. One line reads, "When fire lights the unseen sky, and shadows dance within the minds of men, two roads shall emerge, one false, one free. But the sleepers will not see the sign." And what is that sign? Some believe we already saw it. On April 8th, 2024, a total solar eclipse sliced across North America. And for those who remember, there was another eclipse back in 2017 following an identical path. Together, they formed a perfect X across the heart of the United States. To astronomers, it was just an alignment. To the ancients, that was a verdict, a cosmic marker, a warning. And now coming in 2025, another eclipse, this time over the southern hemisphere. But here's the kicker. This one comes with a rare phenomenon scientists are calling the black ring phase, a moment when the moon, instead of glowing in shadow, appears surrounded by a dark halo, an eerie, unnatural glow. Prophecy readers are already calling it the Black Crown. And if ancient Persian texts are to be believed, this is the final sky sign, the last one before what they called absorption. But absorbed into what? Some say it's a metaphor for a spiritual realm. Others believe it's a warning about synthetic reality, a world so digitized, so connected, that we forget what it means to be real, that we allow ourselves to be absorbed into illusion. That's the trap. The prophecy that hits the hardest doesn't talk about meteors or floods. It says, they will no longer be bound by chains. They will chain themselves with light. Think about that. We've traded chains of iron for chains of data, of dopamine hits, of screen time. We scroll while the sky burns. We tweet while the oceans rise. We plug in while the spirit fades. But here's the good news. The prophets didn't just warn us, they guided us. There's one final prophecy, the seventh. And it's not written in any one book. It's not carved into stone or buried under pyramids. It's woven through time, spread across cultures, whispered through dreams and hidden texts and sudden moments of clarity. And it says this: in the moment of greatest darkness, there will be a split, a fork in the timeline, a divide between the watchers and the sleepers. Watchers aren't perfect, not holy, not chosen. They're simply awake, aware of the shift, sensitive to energy, willing to question what the world calls normal. Sleepers? They remain in the illusion, not because they're evil, but because they're afraid or numb or too attached to comfort. But here's the twist.
No one can force your path. No one can wake you up. Not a prophet, not a preacher, not even a catastrophe. Only you. That's why everything you've heard in this video isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to remind you. You didn't come here to be consumed by noise. You didn't come here to be owned by a screen. You came here to remember. To remember what? Your essence. That's the real passport through the Great Divide. When the sky turns red, when the ground cracks open, when time begins to twist and fold and dissolve, you must know who you are. That's what this is all about. So ask yourself right now, which road are you on? The path of sleep or the path of sight? The path of illusion or the path of essence? Because time isn't just running out, it's collapsing. What once took years to change now happens in weeks, in days, sometimes in a single moment. Maybe this is yours. And if you've made it to the end of this message, maybe that's not an accident. Maybe you're one of the few who was never meant to forget. So what now? Share this message. Comment what you feel. Let others know they're not alone in sensing the shift. Subscribe. Join the zone of the awakened, not because it's trendy, but because it's necessary. If this spoke to your soul, leave a super thanks. Help keep the signal alive. The world might be drowning in noise, but the truth still finds a way to surface. The sky is turning, the earth is groaning, and prophecy, it's no longer in the future. It's now. This was 2025. The year the sky turned to fire. The year we remembered or forgot who we really are.